A few years ago, it looked like Kansas football was going to become one of the better programs in the Big 12, as they had a good coach in Lance Leipold, a young quarterback in Jalon Daniels who was a star, and it seemed that there was just a lot of momentum and that KU could finally be relevant. They had a couple of really good starts, but unfortunately, they have now missed bowl games in back-to-back seasons. They lose a lot of their starters from this year's team. People are starting to question if Lance Leipold is really the coach of the future, and some also think Kansas was just a one-year flash in the pan. I have a lot of my own thoughts on the matter, and in today's video, we're going to discuss the current position of Kansas football. We're going to go through how they've done the last couple of years, my thoughts on what they need to do moving forward, and if things are really as bad as they seem. But before we get started, if you're a big fan of college football, be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like if you want to support today's video, and let me know what player, team, topic, or situation I can cover next. Now let's go ahead and get started and talk about Kansas football. Okay, so ahead of the 2024 season, it looked like Kansas was poised to reach a bowl game for the third straight year. Before that even happened, it would have been impossible, as KU was one of the worst programs in all of college football, and just a few years earlier, they were truly dead in the water. Unfortunately, the 2024 season did not go according to plan, and now in 2025, they have once again missed a bowl game. Lance Leipold said, quote, "There's pressure in every job every single day. Expectations, no matter where they're there all the time. They just are, and if you win 5 games, or you win 6, or you win 9, or you win 2, the pressure is always there to try to make it better." Yeah, no matter what, Lance Leipold is under some pressure at KU, but after seeing early success in Lawrence, many thought that he'd be a guarantee to make a bowl game pretty much every year. I don't think anybody was expecting Kansas to be a 10 or 11 win team, but getting to 6-6 and playing in a bowl game was hopefully going to be the expectation, and something that KU fans could realistically expect. I will come out and say it, most of you guys know I'm a diehard Mizzou fan, but since I cover college football full time, I don't really have any emotional stake in any of these games, and I've actually always wanted to see Kansas football succeed, so this is not some sort of hit piece or me trying to trash the Jayhawks. I am genuinely just trying to talk about the program and my honest thoughts. One of my first memories as a kid was when Mizzou played against Kansas in 2007, and that was one of the most exciting college football games ever. Guys like Jeremy Maclin, Chase Daniel, Aqib Talib, and Todd Reesing were playing in that game, and I remember as a young kid falling in love with college football during that game. Kansas ended up being special for a couple of years under Mark Mangino, but after he was run out of town, things got really bad for them. Mangino was fired after going 5-7 in 2009 and some off-the-field stuff, and after that, they would decide to hire Turner Gill. Turner Gill went 3-9 in his first year, and then 2-10 in year 2 in 2011. In total, he won 5 games, and only won 1 conference game. It was bad. Charlie Weis was not any better, as in his 3 years, he never won more than 3 games, and won a grand total of 2 Big 12 games. Kansas had now whiffed on their second straight hire, and for some unknown and odd reason, they thought Texas A&M wide receivers coach David Beatty would fix everything. He ended up going 0-12 in his first season, including going winless in the Big 12, and then in 2016, he went 2-10. 2017, the team went 1-11, and in 2018, they went 3-9. After winning 2 conference games in 4 years, it was time to move on. I mean, Kansas was a dead program, and we're starting to lose to FCS schools. Absolutely terrible. In 2019, they decided to go out and hire Les Miles, who had won a national championship at LSU and was hoping to turn things around. While he did recruit and bring a bit of momentum back to Kansas, he only went 3-9 in his first year, before then having a disastrous 2020 season. Les also had a very controversial ending to his time at KU, and all of a sudden, after firing Mark Mangino and being 1 win away from a national championship appearance in 2007, KU was the laughingstock of all of college football. A couple decades earlier, that was their rival Kansas State, but after Bill Snyder, they turned things around and were one of the more competitive programs in college football. KU would need a similar guy, and the Jayhawks had to make a late hire for the 2021 season and would decide to go out and get Lance Leipold. He had been a guy I'd heard about for quite some time, as he was a superstar coach at Wisconsin Whitewater, winning 109 games and only losing 6 games in his 8 years there. He then took the head coaching job at Buffalo, where he had won 37 games in 6 years, including his last 3 seasons going to bowl games, going 10-4, 8-5, and 6-1. The Bulls were even ranked. He was a great coach to hopefully turn around Kansas football, and in 2021, it was a very slow start, as they had rotated quarterbacks Jason Bean and Jalon Daniels, and they had also gained a huge recruit in Devin Neal at running back, who was really good as a true freshman. Ultimately, Kansas ended up going 2-10 in year 1, but they had that one crazy victory over Texas by way of a 2-point conversion. Jalon Daniels was now the guy going into the 2022 season, and they became the feel-good story at the start of the year. They ended up winning their first 5 games, including victories against Houston, Duke, and West Virginia, and the Jayhawks somehow were 5-0. Unfortunately, as they were ranked to play number 17 TCU, they ended up losing by 7, and Jalen Daniels would get hurt. He would miss a lot of time, and all of a sudden KU lost 6 of their next 7 games. Their lone win came against number 18 Oklahoma State, and that would get them bowl eligible for the first time in a long time. They'd end up playing in the Liberty Bowl against Arkansas, where they lost a heartbreaker 55-53 in 3 overtimes. Jalen Daniels was insane in that game, throwing for 544 yards, and he would return for the 2023 season, giving the Jayhawks a lot of hype. This would end up being the peak of the Leipold era, but it wasn't due to Jalen Daniels. Jason Bean had stepped up, throwing for 2,100 yards and 18 touchdowns. Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw Jr. ended up becoming the 1-2 punch at running back, and then guys like Luke Grimm, Quentin Skinner, and Lawrence Arnold all were great and consistent wide receivers. In 2023, KU once again got off to a 4-0 start, and were bowl eligible by October 28th after they beat number 6 Oklahoma in the biggest win in a long time. They peaked at 7-2 after a win over Iowa State, but after losing close games against Texas Tech and Kansas State, they'd win their final one against Cincinnati to finish the regular season at 8-4. They even had to start Cole Ballard after Jason Bean was hurt, and then they'd play against UNLV in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, and they ended up going 9-4. It was a special season in Lawrence, Kansas, but that is where the pendulum flipped. Going into 2024, some were expecting KU to be one of the better teams in the country, but unfortunately, that is not how it went. After beating Lindenwood, they ended up losing 5 straight close games, including a home loss to UNLV. All of a sudden, Kansas went from 1-0 with a lot of hype to 1-5, and the season pretty much being over. Leipold ended up getting things in order as they'd win 4 of their next 5 games, including wins over number 16 Colorado, number 6 BYU, and number 17 Iowa State. After losing to Baylor in the season finale, they'd end up missing a bowl game, and the Sunflower Showdown game against K-State would end up haunting them. After a late fumble, K-State would win for it felt like the 100th year in a row, and Kansas had missed a bowl game. But again, they had showed plenty of promise, they had fought back, beat some ranked teams, and Jalen Daniels would return for the 2025 season. Unfortunately, they would lose their superstar running back Devin Neal off to the NFL, and going into 2025, KU needed to reload. Daniels was back at quarterback, and they'd bring back Daniel Highshaw Jr. and Iowa transfer LaShawn Williams at running back. At the receiver position, they brought in former Alabama 5-star Emmanuel Henderson Jr., and then Cam Pickett was also a popular player to break out. Kansas would end up starting out the season on a high note as they would beat Fresno State 31-7 and Wagner 46-7 to start out 2-0. They'd go on the road to play against Missouri in the renewing of the border war, and this game was thrilling. After taking an early lead, Mizzou would end up coming back and had some late rushing scores to win 42-31, and while it was a setback for KU, it looked like the Jayhawks were fielding a decent team this year. After that, they'd come back home and beat West Virginia, and they are now 3-1. A bowl game would look very promising, but with an opportunity to beat Cincinnati late, they'd end up blowing it, losing 37-34. After that, they would beat UCF 27-20, and then the losing really began. They ended up going from 4-2 to 5-7, and this last month and a half has been tough for Jayhawks fans. They got blown out by number 9 Texas Tech 42-17, had an early good start against K-State before getting blown out 42-17 again, and then their lone win would come against Oklahoma State, who's basically like the deaf and blind schools right now. After that, they'd lose by 4 against Arizona on the road, get blown out by Iowa State, and with one more chance to make a bowl game at home against number 13 Utah, Kansas invented new ways to lose. Jalen Daniels has helped put Kansas back on the map and has won a lot of games during his 6 years in Lawrence, but he honestly screwed up this game. He ended up throwing 3 interceptions, 2 of which turned into Utah touchdowns, and after being ahead in the second half, he threw back-to-back interceptions in the end zone, one of which being a pick 6. From there, the boos started to rain down from the home crowd, and they just could not end up getting the job done. Jayhawks were up 14-10 when Daniels threw his second pick, and after the game was over, Leipold said, quote, "I have to do a better job. I've fallen short of expectations as the head coach, and I have to be a lot better." Ultimately, Friday's loss marked the end of Jalen Daniels' career, and it's been wild. He's battled through multiple injuries, transfer portal rumors, and still somehow finished as the second all-time leading passer in yards and touchdowns in KU football history. Unfortunately, this is a downward trend though, as the Jayhawks have finished the season below 500 in 4 of the 5 years under Lance Leipold. Yes, they made bowl games in 2 of those years, but he is 25-25 since his first season and 27-35 overall. He said, quote, "Mixed in the fact where we've come as a program in a very short time, it has now become the expectation to get to bowl games. We have to continue to look at every aspect of our program in this era of roster building, but as far as 2, 5, and 7 years, we've underachieved by most people's standards." Yeah, when you win early as a head coach, you set a high expectation. For a school like Kansas that was completely starved of football success, he's helped put them back on the map. KU is competitive, has had some good players, has a new cool stadium, and seems to be trending in the right direction. Yes, back-to-back losing seasons is not great for them, but I still think there is a decent future. Unfortunately, they will lose a lot of their key players, as Daniels threw for 2,500 yards and 22 touchdowns this year, but he will leave for graduation. Daniel Highshaw will be gone, and their new star wide receiver Emmanuel Henderson Jr. will also be gone. He had 45 catches for 766 yards and 5 scores. And Leipold now has to flip the roster, find a new quarterback, and somehow find a way to get KU back to a bowl game next year. If not, there might be calls to fire him, and no matter what, his seat is warm, which is a good problem for KU fans because it means the Jayhawks program has become relevant. For a while, it looked like they'd be the worst school to ever exist for football, and now they have expectations. As I said, it's a good problem to have, but what do you guys think? Why do you guys think that Kansas football has fallen off? What does Coach Leipold need to do to fix things? And what other topics should I cover next? Be sure to let me know down below, leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out one of the videos on the end screen. Hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.